PBS is back. Let's talk about this. At least PBS Kids. So let's talk about this. So if you don't know, this is a channel I like to bring out usually when there's bad news. Today I'm bringing it out when there's good news, kind of. We'll get into why I say kind of. But basically, the Trump administration got rid of PBS as part of a federal funding cut thing that they do because there was made up Republican conspiracies that like PBS was leaking the drag queens and then Elmo had an episode showing the vaccine was safe and they didn't like that and Republicans are evil motherfuckers. So they got rid of it. And thousands of people lost their job. Multiple shows were canceled. By the way, I really hate that there wasn't really any comprehensive list that I could find that would just put the list of shows together. I think the problem with this story, with the PBS story, is that most of these big movie companies or studios or news organizations that should be talking about this because it's a direct threat to them, is they're afraid to talk about it because they think if they talk about it, they will be next. Newsflash, talk about it because the longer you wait to talk about it, the more likely you are, yes, to be next on this list. The Trump administration will find any reason to go after you. Like I said, the drag queen story was made up by Republicans. It's not even real, right? So they're literally just making up shit to go after you for. If they can do that with PBS, they will do that with you. Do not stand down. But today, what the good news was, is it was announced today that Netflix signed a deal with PBS. And there's a few things, caveats to this that I want to explain. But let me talk about what this deal entails before I talk about why this isn't as great as some people are making it sound. So Sesame Street has a new home with Netflix. It will stream all the original episodes. I don't know for sure it's all the original episodes, but at least will be most of them. Because what I understand about Sesame Street is there's a lot of music licensing, guest star licensing that makes, just like the Muppet Show on Disney Plus, almost all the episodes are there, but there's a few that are missing. I think that, this is a thing to think about with that. But at least majority of them will be there, which is fine. And all the new episodes will air on Netflix simultaneously with PBS, which makes me think that PBS is going to the government isn't going to fund any more of it, so Netflix is going to work to pay for the extra funding and things like that to get the episodes made. Now it's funny because some of the articles were talking about Sesame Street got saved from cancellation. Guys, Sesame Street was never going to get canceled. They have literal theme parks. They also have tons of merchandise everywhere. It's a huge brand. Somebody was going to pick it up. They were just looking for a new home to stream it because HBO backed out of the deal. Now, my theory is, no one's confirmed this, is that they are very afraid of the Trump administration because if you don't know, Warner Brothers owns CNN and they also own HBO. So when HBO made that deal and their contract came to a close, they just chose not to renew because I think they're very afraid of things going on. And I think it's cowardly and pathetic, but it is a real thing to think about. So when this deal got signed, there was articles being written like that. Please do not buy into headlines like that. It was never in danger of cancellation. These other shows, yes, because they don't have the brand thing of Sesame Street. You gotta understand, Sesame Street's literally been around for fucking 50 years. We're talking about a brand that's been around for 50 years. So, are you really gonna tell me they're gonna cancel? I think it's over 50 years. They're not going to cancel it. They definitely, now Sesame Street has been having issues from what I understand. They were going to make a movie that kind of has gone silent. That's probably why that stuff going on behind the scenes. So it's not to say there weren't worries and concerns, but I don't think this show was ever endangering cancellation. I am very surprised they did not sell to Disney, and honestly, I would have preferred that, and let me explain. Disney has a great preschool lineup where Netflix does not. Netflix, like, biggest thing for preschoolers is Cocomelon, which actual child psychologists have said is bad. So, but Disney Plus has their Disney Junior stuff. They have the Bluey stuff. They have all that kind of stuff. They also have tons of Jim Henson shows like Dinosaurs, Bear in the Big Blue House, and all the Muppet stuff. And there's lots of Muppet and Sesame Street crossovers and things. Like Big Bird's literally in the first Muppet movie and things like that. So why can't we just have that? Now, I think they chose not to do that deal because essentially, when Jim Henson sold the Muppets to Disney, they wanted the Sesame Street, and he did not want that. Now, my caveat to that, I would say, and people might disagree with me, but I think this would have been the correct response, is fuck him. And I'm not saying that as a disrespect to Jim Henson. I absolutely love the guy, right? I think his legacy is very important. But Jim Henson is not alive today. And I think if Jim Henson was alive today, I don't think he would have been against that, because the current administration would have made him livid. This is a guy who loved everybody. He hired multiple LGBTQ people in his projects. He embraced them. He embraced people who wear drag, things like that. Half of the Muppets were in drag. You can watch episodes of the Muppet Show where Gonzo's in dresses. Like, to say like Muppets was woke before it was woke is not incorrect. Like, it is. And, so this is the thing to think about. And so I understand why they chose not to, and I appreciate them trying to respect Jim Henson's legacy. But I don't know if Netflix was the right option. Now, Netflix did say they are working to, like, make games and based off other Sesame Street franchise and things like that. Netflix has been really into the gaming world recently with stuff. Nothing I've really cared about because I'm not a gamer, but that is a thing. Now, what I was very confused about, they say, and PBS Kids. This is the part where I say this news is not as good as it could be. So that was all the good news. Sesame Street is on the most famous streaming service, has a new home, and you can still watch episodes on PBS for free. And I believe the app is still going to be there. I don't think in the article I read they were mentioning the app, but from what I understand, the app is still going to be up. Here's why I say this is not as good as we hoped. First of all, Netflix is one of the most expensive streaming services. And one of the great appeals about PBS was that they were free and and they were easy to access. Now, people have explained to me, it's not free anymore, but it's still free on the channel and the app. And I understand that. But now that Netflix is making these deals, which they don't own any of these PBS shows, keep in mind that, that doesn't bode well, though. Well, who's to say how long before the channel gets shut down and before the app gets shut down and they just move everything over behind a paywall? I think that would be very insulting. I've also seen some dumbass people still express this point that, well, maybe next administration with the Democratic president will bring back PBS. And I think if you are that stupid, you have no business being in politics. This administration cut it forever. Thousands of people who make these jobs and work in these divisions no longer have jobs. So because they no longer have jobs, they're not going to wait around to no longer for a job that may come back in 4 years. What's going to happen is they're going to look for other jobs, and they're not going to be able to call those people back. So they may reinsert an educational programming division in the government, but it won't be what PBS was. And who's to say whenever we elect a Republican, they wouldn't just do the same shit again, right? Because it wasn't just Trump who wanted to do this, by the way. His whole party was having hearings in Congress over lies and conspiracy. So it is something to think about when you talk about this, because I really think some people are just so fucking naive about some of this that they really just need to shut up. Genuinely. And I really don't want to be mean like that, but it really is true. Like, why are you talking if you just are not paying attention to what's happening? And so when they say PBS is still there, if all these shows got canceled, we're not hearing about, oh, this one actually didn't get canceled, got saved because they made the deal with Netflix. No, I think what it's sounding to me is Sesame Street will be one of the only shows airing new episodes because it's a whole brand thing, and everything else will just be library content on Netflix. Like, oh, you can watch whatever PBS show like Daniel the Tiger or something on Netflix, but there won't be new episodes. And so this is why it's not as good as people are pretending it is. The Trump administration really just essentially cut thousands of jobs, ruined the lives of tons of people just because they wanted to. There is literally no other reason. They weren't necessarily voicing opposition to Trump in a way that some people may pretend. It is just ridiculous, and I think it's really sad. And I just think that it was important I gave you this update because I thought this was a great update in some regards, but also a very flawed update. And I just really wish certain parties had spoken out sooner before the damage went through. And unfortunately, people waited around, they fucked around, and here we are. And I'm very upset that it got to this point. And as a fan of PBS and a lot of these things, it was just very unsettling to me to see this go down the way it did. I think I will be reviewing the new episodes of Sesame Street when the new season drops on Netflix. I don't think they announced a new season release date, but I'm guessing sometime this year. Just very upset about the way things went down. I personally am very saddened by all of this. And it's a story that's being underreported and leaving me brokenhearted.